Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. I am Mary, and I am joined today by Lori and Carmen.
Hello.
Great show today. We're going to talk with Frank Matejcek from Concerned Citizens of the Fufeng project up in Grand Forks. But we're also going to be joined by Clay Clark and his Reawaken tour. And then, of course, we're going to end it with the lighter side. And we're going to talk about Armed Forces Week, and that's something that we don't want to miss out on. But first of all, I just want to welcome Frank to the program. Hi, Frank.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. We are so glad that you joined us. We understand that there was a meeting last night at the City Council. Why don't you just kind of jump in and tell us all about it?
Well, they had a couple of the plat and the PUD, which is a planned unit development, which contains what basically what the developer is going to do on the property. And I'm sure you're aware that Fufeng has purchased 370 acres of farmland just north of the city, about a mile.
So explain that a little bit, because I thought Chinese could not own any farmland in North Dakota. Well, tell us how that happened.
You know, a lot of these laws are a little ambiguous, I guess. It's my understanding that they can't purchase property over 640 acres, which would be a full section. This is 370. I don't know all the legals of the purchasing, but what they've done is they made sure that they had it changed from agriculture. It was an A2, and they changed it to an I2, which is industrial, the strongest industrial you can have. And they already had it changed by the zoning. And last night that was final. And they also decided to put the property in a PUD, which gives them more flexibility about doing what they want to do. There was some controversy over the PUD. I've raised some concerns about it being on the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, the vote was like 5-2 to allow them to do that. Last night, the City Council, which has the final approval, basically had some discussion about it. They wanted to add some things like odor and water, but they were discouraged to do that by the city administrator and some of the other council members. It just seems like they're just giving these guys a blank piece of land and basically telling them you can do whatever you want to do here, you know, as long as it's an I2 use. And with that much property, have no proof or anything, but speculation is that they could have up to 3 or 4 more factories on the same property, and it would be compliable with the zoning. So, they have the mayor of the city was in Bismarck on the in November of 2021, and he was looking for to get the gas line to North Dakota from western North Dakota to Grand Forks. And one of the things he mentioned was they needed the gas line for Fufeng Phase 2. That's the first that any of us ever heard about Phase 2. Phase 1, we assume, is the wet milling corn plant. So what's Phase 2? Last night they said there was no Phase 2, but yet he asked for the gas line for that. So there's something kind of suspicious about that.
Okay, so clarify again, who asked for the gas line for Phase 2, and where can we find that documentation? Where did you find that? That
was on the North Dakota Legislators Appropriations Committee, I believe it was, and it was in November 21st of 2021. And the officials from Grand Forks were down there trying to appropriate some funds, I would imagine, and also to get the gas line there for this has been a big thing, the gas line from western North Dakota to Grand Forks or to Fargo, I guess. And whether Fufeng comes or not, the natural gas line would probably be a big benefit for everybody in the area. But they're really using Fufeng to try to get that here. And the major company that's going to build that pipeline, I guess, is pulled out of it. So I don't know where, you know, the last I heard it would be at least 3 to 4 years before it could even be here.
Very interesting.
So what you're saying then is this project, it has been things that tie in clear back from 2021 when the legislative session was in session, where where our legislature was aware that this was going on up in Grand Forks then.
Well, yeah, it would have been in November, so it would have been just the Appropriations Committee would have been meeting on.
Oh, the special committee that,
Yeah,
or the
and
special
that's
session.
It's very interesting you brought that up because we live in Faulkner Township, which is the township that's most affected by this. And as far as the township, I'm a township officer, and while my two other supervisors, we didn't know anything about this till mid-December. And our chairman had to ask the city, hey, aren't you guys going to tell us about this? And then they decided to have a meeting with us in January, where that was really the first we heard of any of the big plans. So part of this whole problem with the city and everything is that they held so much back from everybody. A lot of the citizens in Grand Forks in the city really felt like their council members had let them down. They weren't being transparent with them. They weren't letting them know what was going on. And I think that's what spurred the citizens there to go ahead and put the petition and to have it on for a vote.
And so something interesting, just in my own district, I'm with District 31 right here in North Dakota, and we have one of our legislators is on the Water Committee, and I asked him specifically at a meeting a couple weeks ago about what's going on regarding water, because I understand it's a big issue, and he said they have nothing to do with it, that the state has nothing to do with it, that it's a city matter. Do you know anything about that?
Well, no, but they keep saying that if they need auxiliary sources of water, they're going to get them from different sources. Basically, this plant, I'm sure somebody's told you this before, but from what we understand, it's going to use the same amount of water and the same amount of natural gas as the entire city of Grand Forks each day. There's been some concern about the Red River. The Red River, at the Forks, the Red Lake River flows into Grand Forks at the Red River. And, but last year it got to be quite dry, it was a drought. I haven't basically seen it that dry since about 1981, maybe 82 in there. So it can get dry. And the concern with a lot of people is the water usage and the large amount that they're going to use. So they keep saying they're going to get it from different sources. And I don't know, one of the council members is involved with the Garrison diversion, which is supposedly going on again. I don't have the answers to all this stuff. Probably good things for a show for you guys someday, so I can find out what's going on really. But because I've heard about Garrison diversion basically my whole life, and I don't know how far the water is, if it's at McCluskey or where it's at. So, but they're talking about, yeah.
I don't know exactly either. And I just want to, for our viewers, I want to show them exactly the piece of land that we're talking about. I actually stopped by there on Saturday to take a look at it. And right now there's a little bit of flood water, snow melt and rain that you've had. So that's pretty much where it's going to be. Now there's some other manufacturing buildings in the area as well, but this is basically where it would be at.
You just went down 27th. The great big tanks in the very corner that you noticed, that was the jet fuel supply tanks, defense fuel supply for the Grand Forks Air Force Base. When the base had the tankers and the jets and stuff out of there, the bombers out of there, they had to have 3 different fuel sources, 1 on the base and 2 in different positions outside of the base. And those big fuel tanks you see are part of that defense fuel system, but they don't use it anymore. It's been sold. So.
Very interesting, but it still is concerning that it is that close to a military Air Force base. Did they address that again at all? Did anyone bring up the safety concerns? That's
been brought up by a lot of different people. My particular situation being in my township and knowing the property, and by the way, this 370 acres is prime farmland. It's really good farmland. It's nice, good farmland. I farm right across the ditch from it. I have actually farmed some of that in my farming career years ago, and it's a very good piece of land. It's kind of a shame to see good farmland like that be set up for plants like this when there's other property around Grand Forks that's saline and not that good that could be used for the same project. So it's kind of interesting that they picked that piece. I think what you saw there was just some surface drainage. It's really never been a flood area there so much as you know, we had an awful lot of moisture in the last week and a half. So there's been a lot of standing water.
Okay. All right, Frank. We have simply run out of time for today, but we want to invite you back and other citizens that are concerned from the Grand Forks area. Thanks for dropping by and giving us an update right here on Ladies of Another View on Beck.